Tom, we will let you dive in to the files, and I'm going to go to Capitol Hill. Ryan, let me just read a little bit. The Justice Department saying, in view of the congressional deadline, all reasonable efforts have been made to review and redact personal information pertaining to victims, other private individuals, and protect sensitive materials from disclosure. That has been a big part of the effort that has been underway in the days and weeks leading up to this release. Obviously, the battle to get these documents released has erupted on Capitol Hill. Talk a little bit, as our colleagues start to read through the Epstein files, Ryan, about that backdrop, the fact that you had this, what turned into a bipartisan effort to pressure DOJ to release these documents. You also had survivors of Jeffrey Epstein come forward, hold press conferences with lawmakers on Capitol Hill to try to make the case that these documents need to see the light of day, Ryan.
Yeah, let me talk about that in a second, Kristen, but there is one thing of interest, I think, when we begin to dive into whether or not the Department of Justice is being fully compliant with the law that was passed by Congress to release these files. There is a tab on this page that you go to that allows you to search the database. This was a requirement of Congress that not only do all the files be released, but that the American public would have the ability to use a searchable database to find information quickly that they might be looking for. I went in, and obviously this has only been up for about 15 minutes, if that, and typed in a few obvious search terms that folks might be looking for. And so far, it returned no information yet. So maybe they're still working out the kinks there. But I do have to tell you, one of the big questions that we're going to have, and it leads into what the question that you asked me, is how will Congress view compliance when it comes to the release of this information? And one of the things that kind of created this groundswell of support behind a congressional effort to force the Department of Justice to release this information was this idea that the Department of Justice was going to hold nothing back, that they were going to provide everything that they had in all of their case files and all of the evidence collection and all of the different court cases, and that the American public would have the ability to go through that information on their own without any kind of filter. Now, there's obviously a few caveats that have to do with active investigations and the protection of survivors and their victims. But one of the things that is happening right now are these members of Congress that have pushed hard for this. They're going through these documents to see exactly if their vision of what compliance looks like matches what we see in what's come out of this early release of these documents. And I think there's right now a kind of divide on Capitol Hill as to how much space they're going to give the Department of Justice to get into compliance. We saw Ro Khanna, who's one of the authors of the legislation, say, let's give them some time here. They say they're going to do what they're going to do. If they don't get everything out today, as long as they get everything out, that'll be okay. But then you saw Robert Garcia, who's the ranking member of the Oversight Committee, along with Jamie Raskin, the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, take those words we saw from Todd Blanche earlier today, that they weren't going to release everything today, and already declare them not in compliance. So this is a really important part of this puzzle, is what does compliance look like? How do you determine that? And if there is the perception that they aren't complying, what are the consequences associated with? And I think that's going to be one of the big storylines that plays out here over the next couple of days.
I think you're absolutely right, Ryan. And as our colleagues sift through all of this paperwork, I want to read a statement from Maria Farmer, one of the Epstein survivors. This was a statement released today prior to the start of the release of the document. She says, "This is a moment for which I have waited 3 decades, over half my life. When I was ignored and hung up on by the FBI in 1996, my world turned upside down and I felt frozen in time. I faced death threats, ridicule, and mockery by some of the most powerful people on earth. When my FBI reports are finally made available, I am hopeful that I will be able to pick up where I left off at age 26. I am also hopeful that this will be an important step for many of the survivors and to hold the government accountable for their grotesque law enforcement failure, one of the largest in U.S. history." Again, the statement today coming just before this release of the Epstein files, which has now started to come in. Ryan, let me go back to you. because the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein played a large role in this push that we saw on Capitol Hill to make this day possible, to push these papers out into the public.
Kristen, I don't think that you can overstate the amount of impact that the Epstein survivors and victims had in making this day a reality. They were apolitical. They reached out to Republicans and Democrats. They reached out to journalists, many of them speaking to us at NBC News. And they did so under very courageous and very difficult circumstances. As we've already seen, there are very, very powerful men who are that were connected to this controversy and this scandal. And in many different ways, these survivors had their livelihoods threatened, their actual lives threatened. And obviously, they went through the pain and trauma of the experience as well. So it took a lot for them to come forward, put their names and faces in front of television cameras and tell that story and demand action. And I think what's interesting about the germination of this process is, in many ways, it started, at least the kind of the real momentum behind this, started in the conservative influence and blogosphere. These were conservative influencers who had the theory of a conspiracy theory that perhaps the Epstein controversy was in many ways the keystone to a vast Democratic-led conspiracy that involved some of the most powerful leaders in the Democratic Party, in Hollywood, and in other places, in big tech. And that's kind of what got the ball rolling. And Donald Trump adopted that as a campaign platform in 2024, promising that these files would be released. And then Donald Trump got elected, and the Department of Justice handed out over the summer a kind of a half-hearted effort to release all these files. And that's when you saw the survivors come in and seize on this opportunity, say that this is not enough. We have been begging for this for the better part of 3 decades, and now we see an opening where it has gotten the consciousness of the average American who hadn't paid that close attention to it, and they were able to tell their stories as the real victims of this situation. And from a political perspective, regardless of whether or not you are a Republican or a Democrat, you could not stand in the way of that momentum going forward. And once Ro Khanna and Tom Massey got to the point where they got enough signatures on that discharge petition to go around Republican leadership and get this bill on the floor, all but one member of Congress knew that they could not risk being someone that stood in the way of this release. That's why you saw it passed by a nearly unanimous vote in the House, only one member voting no, and it passed without even any sort of debate in the Senate under unanimous consent. And so there is no doubt that you have to give credit to the survivors who risked everything by telling their story. And I also believe, Kristen, as shown in that statement that you just read, is that it's going to be the survivors that are going to be the drivers of the Department of Justice fully complying, because not only are we going to hear their voices and hear them say, no, this isn't enough, we know there's more out there, but they also have the ability to take legal action on their own to force this compliance. So their role in this is just so unbelievably important.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.